Alright students, here's the last video in this series of converting temperatures. We're going to be looking at converting Celsius to Fahrenheit. This is a little bit more involved because there's a couple more steps, but they're not incredibly difficult. But let's begin by looking at the general equation we're going to use. As always, we do begin with our Celsius equation, which is the following: degrees C equals degrees Fahrenheit minus 32 times 5 divided by 9. So do us a favor, memorize this. From this equation you can find Fahrenheit, and then if you memorize the conversion from Celsius to Kelvin, you can go from there and then figure it out, your Kelvin temperature. But here, what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out the Fahrenheit. And so it's this variable right here in the middle. And so what we'll do is let's look at a sample problem here. Let's say that we want to go from 14 degrees Celsius, and I want to figure out how many Fahrenheit degrees is this 14 degrees Celsius equal to. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this number here and we're going to substitute it in its place, 4 degrees Celsius. So that will give us the following revised equation. So we're going to get 14 is equal to degrees Fahrenheit minus 32 times 5 divided by 9. Recall the order of operations at this point. Parentheses first, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Parentheses is first. The subtraction at the very end here is going to be last. And so what we want to do is look at anything that has a parentheses. Notice here we've got the parentheses 5 divided by 9. Now in this case we're not going to go ahead and multiply it with the 32. In fact, what I want to do is I want to move it to the left hand side. In order for me to do that, I need to make sure that I multiply by the inverse, because 5 divided by 9, the inverse of that, or the opposite of that, is if you take the 9 and divide it by 5. And so what winds up happening here is you're going to get 9 on the numerator divided by 5, and what happens here is that you wind up canceling the 9's with each other and the 5's cancel with each other, essentially giving you 1. And so what you do to one side, you're going to have to do to the other. So we're going to take this over here and we're going to take 9 divided by 5 and we're going to multiply that times 14, and that's going to be equal to degrees Fahrenheit minus the 32. So now the order of operations has resulted in us having parentheses over here on the left hand side, so we need to go ahead and resolve that. And so we're going to resolve this section here. When you take 9 and divide it by 5, that actually gives you 1.8. So 1.8, and we're going to multiply that times 14. And this is going to be equal to degrees Fahrenheit minus the 32. So the next step is just follow through on that and take 1.8 and multiply it times 14. And when you get that, or when you carry out that operation, you're going to wind up getting 25.2. This is going to be equal to degrees Fahrenheit minus the 32. Now, here we're one variable away, and so we need to look for that Fahrenheit, and I still have a number on the right-hand side, so I'm going to have to get rid of the 32. The only way to get rid of it is go ahead and add 32 to it. If I do that, it cancels on this side, but I have to do the same thing to the other side and add the 32. So that 32 gets added there, and when you do that, this degrees Fahrenheit is going to be left by itself. And so you're going to wind up getting the following. So let me just draw a line here to divide it out. I'm going to continue on the other side of the line. So this 25.2 and the 32 actually equals the following: 57.2, and this is going to be equal to my degrees Fahrenheit. Notice again my original answer only has 2 significant figures. So to back this up here, if I were asking you for 3 significant figures like 14.0, then you can go ahead and stop here at 57.2. But since I only want 2 significant figures here, my first 2 significant figures are the 5 and the 7. Look at the 2. The 2 is definitely not greater or equal to 5, so I'm going to go ahead and drop the 2. There's no increasing of the 7. My final answer here is going to be equal to 57 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's my final answer there. If you have any questions on this problem or any other problem on this set here, go ahead and see me in class. Until then, we'll see you next time.